So, this past week on Wednesday, I had the privilege of teaching some of our seventh and eighth graders. And I brought them into the sanctuary around, I don't know what time it is, maybe a little later than this. I'm pretty bad with time sometimes. It was a little later than this. But the beauty of this time of year, we are in the month of Kislev, which is the darkest month. If you look outside, it's always the darkest month. And my very favorite way to experience the sanctuary is on nights like this when it's dark outside and the lights are not on in the sanctuary, all except for the Ner Tamid. The Ner Tamid is the light that is over the ark. Whenever you go and there's an ark in the chapel, we have one. In the sanctuary, we have one. When you go into synagogues around the world, a Ner Tamid, which means an eternal light, is always over the ark. And that is the only light in the sanctuary. And I find it beautiful and spiritually moving when I come into the sanctuary at that moment, knowing that the only light in the sanctuary is the one that is always there, reminding us that Torah and Judaism and the teachings of Torah are always ever present, and they are always open and accessible to us. The light is always on. The door is always open. No matter time and place, where you are in the world, what you're doing, there is a light, and the light of Torah is there for you. So I brought them into the sanctuary at my favorite time, where I find that I feel connected to God, where I find this moment of feeling that I feel God with me. And so we sat in a circle together with just the light of the Ner Tamid. And I asked them to be quiet for a moment. And I asked them to think, to close their eyes, and to think about how and when they experience God in their lives. And that's a question that I think we don't ask ourselves all the time. Where is it that we experience God or spirituality or connection to something higher in our lives? In the chaos of life, we don't always take that moment to see where God is. So I asked them to think about it, and they came up, as usual, with extremely profound answers. I learn the most, I find, from our students, often. And they said things like, I find God when I'm doing something that I love. You know, in that moment of finding a joy and a passion in their life, that's when they feel God in their life, when they get to do and move their bodies in ways that allows them to express who they are and what they love, they feel God. Somebody said that she feels God right at the moment when she is about to fall asleep and in the moment right after she wakes up. And now that's a very beautiful teaching as well. We have a prayer for that in Judaism. We believe the ancient rabbis taught that when we fall asleep, that our souls leave our bodies and they go to heaven and they learn from God and they get the ability to be with God during the night. And then God returns our souls to our bodies, which is why we say the prayer, Modeh or Modah Ani, when we wake up. Thank you, God, for returning my soul into my body. So the fact that she feels God right before she falls asleep and right when she wakes up, what a beautiful and profound idea. Somebody told me that they feel God when they are connected to something that their siblings do, that they heard for years their siblings talk about doing as older, first the oldest and then the second oldest joining a singing group. And then finally, when she got to join a singing group, she understood what it meant to connect to something that brought her siblings, the generations, the people that came before her, such joy. That's where she felt connected. That's where she felt God. And so I want to invite you all tonight to think about where are the places in your life that you find God, that you find connection. In this week's Torah portion, Parshat Vayetze, we read about Jacob, who had this dream. He laid his head down by the river and he slept on a rock. It's not really the most comfortable place to sleep, but he chose it. And so he's laying his head down to sleep. and he falls asleep and he begins to dream. And he has a vision of a ladder with angels, malachim, going up and down the ladder, up and down. And he wakes up and he says, "Sure, God was in this place and I didn't know it." What a beautiful idea that there might be places and times in our lives when God is in a place and we didn't recognize it. And the important thing that the commentaries point out about Jacob's dream is that the malachim, the angels, the messengers, normally we would say, oh, they probably come down from heaven, right? And then go back up. But no, the text says that they go up and down, meaning that they're among us, right? That there are people who could act as messengers among us, that bring us closer to God, have messages from God in our lives every day. And so I'd like to share with you a quote from Lawrence Kushner. It's in our prayer book, but I'm going to share it with you because I find meaning in it, and I hope that maybe you do too as we take a moment to reflect. What Lawrence Kushner says about this prayer, about this moment in Torah, that we understand that ordinary people are messengers of the Most High. They go about their tasks in holy anonymity, often even unknown to themselves. Yet if they had not been there, if they had not said what they said or did what they did, it would not be the way it is now. We would not be the way we are now. Never forget that you too, yourself, may be a messenger. So I want to ask you to think about for a moment, and we're going to have a little bit of music to help us reflect and meditate, to think about how and where you experience God in your life. Something higher. We all have different definitions of God. We all understand God to be different things. However you define God or higher something, a spiritual connection, how and where do you find that in your life? So take a moment. So as you go through this week, I hope that this message in this Torah portion speaks to you, that it helps you to remember that wherever we are in life, the people that we encounter, the places that we are, there is the potential that God is there, and surely we did not recognize it. So let's take a moment to try even just a little bit harder to recognize it. Try and find God in the world around us. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.